Okay, we will call together the regular council meeting for August the 10th. I'll just take a moment to acknowledge the traditional territory of our friends and our neighbors, our Treaty 8 partners of Fort Nelson First Nation, as well as the Prophet River First Nation. We recognize our treaty. We recognize the rights within that treaty. We also recognize the contributions and enduring presence of the Métis people in our region. Please be advised that tonight's meeting is available for the public to attend virtually and is being streamed and recorded. Are there any council additions tonight's agenda? No? Are there any staff additions? Thank you. Is there any public who wishes to comment on anything on tonight's agenda? Online? No hands going up in the room? No? Okay, adoption of the agenda is in order, please. Councillor Souls, second by Councillor Enax. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. There are two sets of minutes for adoption. Committee of the whole meeting of July the 13th, 2026, and the regional council meeting of July 13th, 2026 for adoption. Moved by Councillor Enax, second by Deputy Mayor Growing. Are there any errors or omissions? Staff? None? Okay, all in favor? Opposed? Those are adopted. Thank you. Is there any business arising from those minutes? Questions or comments? No. Okay, that takes us directly to reports. Yeah, there's no delegations tonight. So that brings us to admin report number 44, the write-off of uncollectible general receivables. Turn that over to staff. Oh, there's Miss Pike. Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I was in Fort Nelson for a few weeks and I unfortunately missed all of you. But I wanted you to notice that we have a lot going on this evening. And we want to get a lot of things off our list. The first one I have for you this evening is to request approval of a write-off policy for uncollectible general receivables. So in reviewing our policies, we currently do not have a policy that allows the write-off of those items that we have deemed to be non-recoverable. We have made a marvelous stab at collection and have brought the list down to what we have before you in the report today. So the first piece is the policy itself. So there's two parts to the recommendation in this report. The first piece is the recommendation to actually establish a policy that we'll be able to utilize going forward. And within that policy, it determines that given that the finance department would follow our collection processes, and at the point we would identify that the debt is not recoverable, that amounts up to $1,000 would be able to be written off, or yes, would be able to be written off by the Director of Finance under the policy. Anything over $1,000, a recommendation would come to council. So what we're seeing within the report is that we've got 26 different accounts, 3 of which are over the $1,000 mark. I've provided a breakdown of the type of accounts that we've had that are non-recoverable, and then identified those 3 that we would be looking for approval for council to have written off. And I'm just wondering if you have any questions on the report and the recommendation.
Council? I have only one question, and that's on the in the actual policy itself, where it talks about annually the Director of Finance will prepare a summary report of all of the delinquent accounts more than $1,000, and the policy gives the Director of Finance the ability to write off anything less than $1,000. So I'm interested in just making sure that council gets a report of everything that gets written off. Although the authority is yours, it belongs to the position. I think there should still be a report that says what we did. Right? Because cumulatively, it's less than 1,000, but cumulatively, it can end up being a number. Yeah, so that's the only comment I have on the report or the policy. Please, Deputy
Yeah.
Mayor.
I have no problem with the policy itself, but I do have a question around when we do write-offs that are the 3 that are listed in this report. Once those accounts have been written off, is there something in our policies and procedures that prevents these groups or individuals from, say, renting an ice surface again, or opening up a bulk water account or a lease that prevents them from doing that sort of business again until their unpaid debt has been paid?
Sure. What we can do is we can confirm the onboarding procedures. For instance, when I think about bulk water, our onboarding procedures for a customer includes double checks. So we'll ensure that we review those with the other departments in terms of their rentals, so that we can ensure that we're not encouraging repeat offenders.
Right, so once it's been written off, it's then off the books. So
Yes.
I'm assuming that there's some sort of historical data that would be saved within the system that all users can check to ensure, yes?
We will ensure a process, certainly, yes.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay,
Sorry, just to confirm, then council is looking for some sort of tracking mechanism to ensure that those who have been written off are in good standing before they can resume business essentially again.
Or they pay up front
Right.
if it's a
Okay.
one-time use, yeah.
Okay.
and because like, although I think maybe 2 of these businesses that we're writing off are no longer operating, they could become owners of another business or whatever. And then in terms of the ice rental, that organization is still in the community, maybe not that particular component of that organization, but should they continue to have the ability to rent the ice when they have a bad debt?
Mhm.
I don't think they should.
Agreed.
Absolutely, absolutely. And in reviewing the accounts that we have sitting there was one that was brought over in 1999 without any information whatsoever. So what I can tell you is that we have been very successful in ensuring payment of newer accounts receivable, given our processes. A piece that we find will be quite challenging is our airport landing fees. So when we have an aircraft that lands at the airport, we get the call numbers and things like that. And a lot of the 13 accounts that we have on the list right now were from the 2024 wildfire season that we were unable to secure access to information for those bills or the ability to follow up on it. So we'll be looking at firming up processes on that side as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we need to develop new wording for the recommendation.
Yeah, I think, so the recommendation is that the write-off of uncollectible general receivables policy be approved. And it goes on to talk about the receivables going to write off. I think we can say approved with amendments. And
Absolutely.
we've captured the amendments, right?
Okay.
So
Thanks.
would you like to move that?
I would.
Okay, so that's moved by Deputy Mayor Gerwing, that the write-off of uncollectible general receivables policy be approved with amendments, and that the general receivables for the following accounts be written off: Fort Nelson Fire, RCMP for $2,257.92. Tim's Air Maintenance for $5,423.68, and True North Trucking for $34,773.68. So that's moved by Deputy Mayor Goering. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Enox. Any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Are there any opposed? That carries. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to 7.2 on the agenda, which is admin report 45, update policy number 19, waiving of property taxes and penalties.
Yes.
Staff, please. Yep.
Yep, absolutely. So in our efforts to update our policies that we currently have, we recognize that we have a policy from 1998 speaking to the waiving of property taxes, and that was developed before the community charter and the Local Government Act brought in legislation that governs how we collect property taxes. So the recommendation is that we update the name of the policy to write-off of uncollectible property taxes, and that and we're also requesting that the attached document for the updated policy be approved as presented.
Thank you. I think for me, I think the report is good. I think I'm fine with the wording of the policy and the name change. So anybody else have comments? Councilor, Deputy Mayor Goering.
Yeah, so once again, I just want to express my appreciation for the way the report is presented. On the one hand, we have the old policy, and on the other side, the other column, we have the new policy, so prevents all of the former work we had in trying to find the old policy and going back and forth and matching all those sentences. I know it takes time, staff time to develop these reports, but I find them extremely helpful. So I just wanted to again mention my appreciation for the work that staff does to make this easier for us. Thank you.
What are council's wishes?
Yeah, I'll make the recommendation that policy number 1998, waiving of property taxes and penalties, be renamed write-off of uncollectible property taxes, and that the updated policy be approved as presented.
Thank you. Moved by Deputy Mayor Goering. Seconder, Councilor Souls. Any further discussion? I gotta move it around. Any further discussion? Seeing that, all in favor? Opposed? That's passed. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to admin report number 46. Write-off of uncollectible taxes. These all sound the same. 2026, but this is the expectation that we send to the minister. So go ahead.
That's correct. So this list contains a few mobile homes that have been moved. It also contains the what we believe is most of the balance of the Erickson National Energy properties that have been sold. The leases have been sold, or they have been turned back to the orphan fund. And our request to the minister will be for a total write-off of $2,690,587.59. We're identifying that the Northern Rockies portion of that amount of taxes is $1,115,306.39, as well as penalty that has been charged over a number of years of $656,146.59.
So I have a question. I don't think I looked closely enough at the dates. So this is from 1 year or multiple years of Erickson? Like, is there multiple accounts here
Yeah.
over
Yes.
the years, or is it just one particular year?
No, it's multiple accounts. So these will, the delinquent taxes can go back anywhere from 3 to 5 years on some of these.
But it's still a significant chunk of money
Yes,
that we
it
have to
is.
come up with in other ways. So,
Yes.
okay, thank you for that. Any other questions? What are council's wishes?
That the Ministry of Municipal Affairs be requested to issue a minister's order for authorization to write off property taxes as identified on the attached listing totaling the amount of $2,690,587.59, including NRRM portion of $1,115,306.39 for taxes and $656,146.59 for penalty and interest.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Souls, second by Counselor Enox. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, that brings us to item 7.4 on the agenda, the establishment of a reserve account for government transfer program.
Yes, and I'm going to address this one as well. So we had identified within our discussions on the government transfer program that we would have the opportunity to establish a reserve fund, a reserve account that would hold funds from a given budget year for use in a future budget year for the government transfer program. So we are seeking authorization to establish the reserve account for the government transfer program. It would, unallocated funds at the end of each year would be deposited within that reserve account, as well as funds that are returned to the municipality as a result of not being used within an approved contract with the agencies. The balance then would be identified for strictly that purpose, to be able to come back into the program as we need it. What we haven't determined is we would like to set up a maximum balance for the reserve account so that we don't continue to put funds in. And within the approval request, we're looking to identify a percentage of the reserve, not to exceed a percentage of the annual budgeted government transfer program. So what we would potentially, we could say we would allow the reserve to build to 25% of the approved annual program, or 10%. And then any funds that would generally go into that reserve account that exceed that would be automatically transferred into the stabilization reserve fund instead. What it does is it automates the process so that we can identify that we want to be protected in any given year by having a set amount of funds available for future requests or future budgets, but not build the reserve account to an amount that doesn't seem reasonable.
Okay. Questions? So I have one. Is there when it comes to setting these reserve accounts, is there a best practice with respect to how large or what the maximum is or would be?
We know that we've got the ability to change the amount by resolution at any point in the future. So I think it becomes, we certainly don't want to set aside enough funds to cover 100% of our program in any given year. But given that we may have the ability, now that we've had our first year of the program roll out, we may see that we have some funds coming back in. We want to be able to continue to roll them through. My first reaction would be up to 25% of the program to be set aside to be used in any future year.
Yeah, and not based on anything particularly other than the size amount. That would, if we're at approximately $1 million every year for the last 4 years, give or take 100,000, that $1 million mark seems to be about what we're hitting right now. So that would be 250,000 that this would go into, and then after that, it would just go back into the general reserve.
No, so then if we had additional amounts that were identified, it would go into the stabilization reserve fund.
Right. Okay.
And the stabilization reserve fund also has maximums set within it
Right.
that may.
So unless while we're building, because I don't expect it to go to, let's just say it ends up at 25%. I don't expect it to go there the first year. So it may take multiple years for it to build up to where that maximum is.
Yes.
And in the meantime, there may be years where we're drawing from it, and that'll give us a little better idea of what it should be sitting at. So I don't have a problem with the 25%. Makes some sense, I think. Unless anybody else has
I'm really conflicted on this one for sure, and I think we need to make a decision because we've been talking around it for a fair length of time now. So whatever we decide tonight, I wonder if there's a mechanism that we ensure that this comes quite quickly to the next council coming in so that they are aware of this, whether that's during the budget process or because, you know, I don't know what the next council is going to look like, but it could be a steep learning curve, right? And we all know what that's like. So I think that this is such an important piece that I would like to ensure that the next council is made aware of this as soon as possible.
So if I may respond to that, we know that in our 2026 budget presentation, we did bring a fulsome report to council regarding the reserve funds and the reserve accounts that identified the use, the minimums, the maximums, so that we will have that opportunity to bring that forward on an annual basis. And we'll be able to have those conversations at budget time when that report comes forward. There also is the other opportunity when we report on the year that we've seen, and we then report on the actuals. And that becomes part of our year-end wrap-up report as well.
I think that this is, oh, sorry, Mayor.
I was just gonna say that there's usually a section in the budget binder that is specific to these grants, and it would be easy enough just to, you know,
Yeah.
put a paragraph in that saying that this is what the reserve fund sits at, this, you know, a bit of a summary, so that when they're addressing the budget at the start rather than at the end, because often the actuals come right at the end, then the previous council, when they look at that, it sort of jumps out at them that is available.
Yeah, and that historical perspective, I think, is so important. And also the fact that the amount can be changed at any point, because that information doesn't necessarily automatically get changed.
Correct.
Right? So, I mean, we've heard it tonight and, you know, some of us have been around for a while, so we know that, but new people coming in don't know that. So I would like to ensure that that information is made clear to the next and subsequent councils as they come in.
Absolutely. And what we'll also diarize is that in the briefing, we'll ensure that our reserve and reserve fund policy itself on how they're established is brought forward as part of that knowledge transfer to new counselors.
So you're talking about the orientation package then?
Yes.
Yeah, okay, yeah, that
Yes.
makes sense. Okay, the second part of this is have we decided on 25%? Are we all okay with that?
I'm okay
Yeah.
with that.
Okay, so I think we're decided that will be the maximum value to start is 25%. The next is how we go about deciding what the amount would be, the allocation might be for subsequent years.
So that's in the next report.
Oh, that's not part of this same one?
Not this one. No.
Oh, I'm getting ahead of
decided to-
myself. I'm
No,
getting ahead of
we're-
myself. I'm sorry. Okay.
We didn't want to tie the two together.
Oh, okay, separately. Okay, so just a percentage then. I jumped ahead too fast. The reserve, okay. Somebody want to make this? I'll read it.
Okay.
Deputy Mayor Gerling is moving. That council authorize the establishment of a reserve account for the government transfer program for the specific purposes of segregating surplus funds related to the government transfer program, to be funded by the unallocated budget funds at the end of each fiscal year, including surplus funds returned to the program, to be expended from the reserve account to offset revenue requirement of the program in any given year or to fund applications where the value of the eligible projects or demonstrated community need exceeds the prescribed formula to fund the program. To maintain a balance in the reserve account not to exceed 25% of the annual budgeted government transfer program, and to contribute surplus funds in excess of the established reserve account balance to the discretionary financial stabilization reserve fund. Ooh. Duly moved. Do I have a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Stoll. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? Carries. Thank you. Okay. Sorry, I jumped ahead to 7.5, but that's the next on the agenda, which is the government transfer policy update.
Yes, and when we received approval for the government transfer policy, it was indicated within the policy that we would come back in the fall to clarify what the funding envelope calculation would be. So we've brought back the link to those previous discussions and provided the table below identifying what we have spent, as well as in the analysis the three different options, and comparing what it would have been had we known. So had we known the 2025 base for the $1 million, we would be looking under assessed value option 1 of 0.1834%, compared to if we were looking at that same $1 million, given our assessment base for 2026, would be 1.1974%. So what we can see is that in each of the scenarios, there's a change from one year to the next based on whatever factor we use. There's no magic to it, I don't believe. I believe it's about picking a formula and then utilizing it for a year or two to determine if we're finding it meets the purpose.
Thoughts? Yeah, you go first. I definitely have thoughts on this one.
Oh, maybe we'll have different thoughts.
Maybe.
Uh,
Probably.
For myself, I think it makes the most sense. Option 3, total operating expenses. I think that just creates a synergy between what the municipality, what it costs to operate the municipality, and then making that linkage to supporting our community groups. I think that linkage is clear in my head over above assessed values or the tax levy. So that would be my thought.
And I agree. So for me, it's the most stable one that we have control over. And we heard very clearly when council, I hate using the word, but we froze the nonprofits at the 2024 levels, excuse me, in 2025, that, you're doing this to us. We heard very clearly, you're doing this to us, but you're not doing it to yourself. You're not cutting anything, the municipality's not cutting its operating expenses. You're just potentially cutting ours. And so we heard that very clearly from the nonprofits. So I think it does tie, it ties most closely. So if we have a year where we do, we do our best at budgeting, and we do our best at, trying to cost save and get the services provided that we're trying to provide out there. And we, we're doing what we can to be responsible. Our nonprofits should be doing the same thing. With the assessed values, we've seen, you know, we've been losing assessment like crazy. It's going up and down. And it's very, very difficult. And the tax levy is the same. We don't know if we're gonna actually, we wrote off $2 million tonight, right? Your tax levies goes, even though you have the tax levy that you expect, you don't know till the end of the year if people don't pay, or clients don't pay, or petroleum companies don't pay. And so you'll get all skewed. Whereas if we do, and I think it should be actual operating expenses. So, right, because that's a number that we know. So for me, 2027 should be a percentage of the actual expenses from 2025. No, 2025, because we don't know 2026 yet. Right? So it's a year in advance. So we know in 2026, and so too will all the nonprofits know early in 2026, what our actual operating expenses were for 2025. You apply the percentage to that, then all the nonprofits know in 2027, this is the value. It's, you know, it's whatever percent we decide. In this particular case, it was, if these were actual operating expenses, not budgeted operating expenses, then we would know to raise $1 million on the 2025, it would be 3.97%. So let's say 4% of the actual operating. And that becomes the standard till we see that it's not, or the next council sees that it's not reflective of what the needs are. That's my feel.
Well, I think that creates the closest linkage to what we all intended to do. And I think that's true. It's just that it does come with the requirement of having that extra year built in before, because you have to read the actuals from the previous. You have no actuals currently to go on, so you have to use the previous year's actuals.
Yeah.
And that's a downside, but you know that too creates a trail. All it takes, we're only into our very first year of this program. Second year, we'll start to know a lot closer how we're projecting as we're going ahead.
Yeah.
And so it's okay. I think it's worth doing it that way. Option 3
also provides at least a 1-year buffer for the nonprofits, right? So you're not coming out this year and saying, sorry, next year you can't have it. There's no room, no time for them to respond, right? So it gives them a year knowing that there might be a reduction. My thoughts. Okay, sounds like there's consensus here. So this is a short one. Would somebody else like to read it?
Brenda.
Okay, with the government transfer policy. 73-25 be updated to include option 3. Actual? Am I saying total actual operating expenses?
Yeah.
Okay, as the funding formula for each of the subsequent budget year.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Enoch. Do I have a seconder? Councillor Soul. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? It's carried. 7.6 on the agenda is the Public Works plow truck replacement.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This report is just looking for approval for the purchase of a single axle plow truck to replace our 2004 Unit 50 single axle that is outlived its usefulness. It's 20 years old and is starting to cause us issues, concerns for breakdown, reliability. We put out an RFQ, received 2 quotes back. There was a newer one at 2027 that came in at a lower price than 2024 that was available. Upon further inspection into the submissions, the 2024 didn't fully meet our specs. It wouldn't fit our sander. I was already fitted with a sander and it didn't have an underbody, so it just made sense to go with the lower price and the truck that fit the specs the most. So the price was well under our budgeted amount. They came in at $327. Our budget amount was $525. We are aware of the delayed delivery time because it's 2027. Will have to be built and upfitted. But we feel if 50 chooses not to run or fail prematurely, we do have a secondary vehicle that we could, or truck that we can upfit and not lose our service levels with snow removal in the wintertime.
Okay. Thank you. Council thoughts?
Where is Industrial Machine located? Are they a BC company or Alberta company or? where are
I
they?
believe they're Alberta, but I'll look that up and get back to you. We've bought several pieces of equipment off
Oh,
them.
yeah, okay,
Our wide area mower was purchased from them,
right,
and I believe they supplied our sweeper as well.
okay, good.
Anybody else?
And I know the report highlights that either machine can be serviced here locally.
Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
Okay, go ahead.
I'd like to recommend that the 2027 Freightliner single axle plow truck be purchased from Industrial Machine Inc. for the bid price of $327,300 plus GST.
Moved by Councilor Enox, second by Deputy Mayor Goering. Further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Any opposed? That carries.
Thank you.
Welcome. We'll talk later about padding the budget.
You should have included that in.
Yeah, you should have covered full of garbage cans.
Okay, item number 7.7, admin report 50 is the development variance permit application DBP 2601 to vary the provision of the fascia sign requirements at 5104 Liard Street. Staff, please. Hi, Rada.
Thank you. I'll restart. Good evening, Mayor and Council. This report in front of you relates to the application, the development permit application submitted by the Red Apple store in town. The applicant intends on installing a fascia sign in addition to the existing primary fascia sign, which has been there for a long time. Sorry. So the property, subject property is at 5104 Liard Street. Everybody is probably aware of this and must have already seen the renovated signage. Primary signage already. It looks bright red, nice. With regard to this report, so the attachment to part of one as well includes what the sign might look like on the building. So the intent of this signage is to enhance the business identification on the building facade and would be put just beside the primary fascia sign. So on analysis section, the OCP and zoning provisions are in support, like there are no contradictions, but sign bylaw is not meeting all the requirements in and which is particularly about the size of the signage. In this regard, what typically a sign bylaw would permit. I'm sorry, I don't know why maybe I'm freezing or what. That's funny. Yeah, sorry, I was freezing earlier.
We're sitting right under that.
Yes, yes. I guess I'm in Councilor Gourman's group, I guess. Anyway, going back to the report, so the sign bylaw typically allows additional 3 fascia sign along with the primary sign. So this would meet the requirement of numbers and location, but would not meet the requirement of the size itself because what is permitted in the sign bylaw is not quite enough for what has been requested. To fulfill the legislative requirements regarding the public notice, mail out was completed within 110 meters radius of the subject property. So far, we haven't received any comments or concerns from the member of public. To conclude this, I would say, given that Red Apple is the only business on this subject property, I think the requested signage kind of complements with the identification of the business and complements the primary fascia sign without overcrowding the look of the facade. As such, as I mentioned earlier, the number of sign and the location of sign on the building is also consistent with the intent of the sign bylaw. So yeah, a recommendation has been provided in the report for council to consider.
Thank you. Good job, even though we were freezing out. I was gonna interrupt you, but you prepared the report, so was respectful to let you finish through it. So I have no problem with this at all. I think the sign looks great. The lights in color. And it's a candy show. So I'm all good. So what are council's wishes?
I'll make the recommendation that the development variance permit application DVP 2601 associated with the Red Apple store located at 5104 Liard Street, legally described as lots 2 and 3, district lot 1578, Peace River District Plan PGP 19250, EXC PCL F 9421 be approved to allow the proposed fascia sign.
Thank you. Moved by Deputy Mayor Grewing. Do I have a seconder? Councilor Enoch. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Is there any opposed? That passes. Okay, that takes us to 7.8, which is a temporary use permit application for construction office and storage for this building.
So
Yeah.
the purpose of this report is to present temporary use permit application for regional council's consideration. The application seeks authorization to place temporary construction of face trailer as well as a storage trailer at 5304 40th Avenue to support the municipal transformer replacement and generator installation project. The proposed temporary use will provide contractor with necessary site support facilities, including office space and the limited storage opportunity. So analysis section again in this report provides further analysis regarding temporary use permits, why development permit would not be required even though it is within the development permit. It cannot comply with the official community plan provisions. However, according to the zoning provisions, a temporary use permit was required because this use for the construction purpose is not outright permitted on a vacant property. As provided in the zoning bylaw analysis section, this kind of construction related temporary use are usually permitted if the use is within the parcel where the construction is occurring. Since this is a bit different situation, we are relying on a different parcel. Temporary use permit was required for this. Again, as per the legislation requirement, public notice was initiated as well as a mail out was completed within 110 meters of the subject property. So far, no comments or concerns has been received for this report either. To conclude, there are two things that has been recommended under the recommendation. So one is putting a condition so that we ensure that once the construction has completed, the temporary structures and the properties are removed on timely manner. The second thing is, even though this construction is only supposed to take place for a few months, 5 to 6 months, and temporary use permit can be up to 3 years. We felt that it might be helpful to keep the term for the 2 years. So because we have some other renovation lined up as well, it might be helpful to use that lot for the construction support.
Okay, thank you. Thoughts?
I recommend that the temporary use permit application TUP 2601 to permit the placement of a temporary construction office trailer and storage trailer in the support of the municipal transformer replacement and generator installation project be approved for a 3-year term for the property located at 5304 48th Avenue, legally described as Lot 2, District Lot 1587, Peace River District Plan 18830, subject to the following condition: the temporary construction office trailer and storage trailer authorized through temporary use permit TUP 2601 shall only remain on the property for the duration of the municipal office electrical upgrades and renovation project, and shall be removed within 30 days of the completion of the construction activities. The property shall be restored to condition satisfactory to the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality.
Thank you. Moved by Counselor Souls. Do I have a seconder? Counselor Enox. Is there any discussion on this motion? Better over there than smashed in between the building and the road, I think. So, yeah. Okay. Okay, seeing no further comments, all in favor? Opposed? That carries. Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to item 7.9. Bylaw number 247, IAFF Mental Health and Wellness Reserve Fund.
Good evening once again. We, during our negotiations with the firefighters union, has identified that a reserve fund would be established, outlining the maximum balance and the use of the funds for future purposes if they're not utilized in each year. So what we've got for you is a recommendation for first, second, and third reading for the bylaw. We've also included a copy of the IFF Memorandum of Understanding number 4, which outlines the information.
Okay, thank you. Any questions? I think we talked about this when staff came forward with the recommendation for the contract. So I think we're just really fulfilling what we said we'd do here.
Make a motion then that the Northern Rockies Regional Municipality IAFF Mental Health and Wellness Reserve Fund bylaw number 247, 2026 be given first, second, and third readings.
Thank you. Moved by Deputy Mayor Gerwing, second by Councillor Enox. Is there any further discussion? Seeing none, all in favor? Opposed? That carries. Okay, that takes us to correspondence. There's one piece of correspondence for discussion. That's the letter from the NCLJ President Kyle McDonald. Somebody move that for discussion, please. Moved by Councillor Enox, second by Councillor Souls. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay. Did staff want to say anything about this particular letter? No?
We just, no, just if I may, we just want to identify that we will be making payment of the membership fees based on the old calculations, and we anticipate the 2027 calculations to come in under the new formula.
Good. I think that's the way the recommendation went at NCLJ. That next year would be the first year of the new. Okay. Good. Okay. All in favor? Oh, you had a question? Well, just look at your face. Yeah. That's the way I.
It was retroactive.
No,
No, that wasn't.
I don't recall it being retroactive. I just remember.
That was
Kyle-
when I spoke to it on the floor at the NCLJ AGM.
Hmm.
And then Kyle spoke to it.
Not to this year. I thought next year, 2027.
My understanding as well, based on the information that Tony had brought back from,
From NCLJ.
yeah.
Yes.
I mean, it's something we can look into for.
I would appreciate,
concern.
I mean, I could be wrong, but I mean, the three of us were there. You two are remembering it in the same way and I'm remembering it differently, but. And I could be wrong, but I would have just appreciate if somebody would check into that. Thanks.
Okay. All in favor with the bylaw? Any opposed? Okay. Would you like your name recorded?
Pardon?
Would you like your name recorded as opposed?
Sure.
Okay. That passes. There are 10 pieces of correspondence there, for information. Somebody move for receive for information, Counselor Enox, second by Counselor Souls, all in favor, opposed, carried. Thank you. There are no new business items. So that brings us to council reports. If anybody has a report. Go ahead, Counselor Enox. please.
Thank you. So sadly, on July 16th, our Scotiabank, which has been here over 50 years and whom I have dealt with since I was a teenager, closed their doors at 11 a.m. I was officially the last customer of the day. So, then July 17th, I attended the Sustainable Service Level meeting. July 21st, Councillor Souls and myself went to the groundbreaking ceremony for Linda's Friendship Lodge. It was attended. Lisa was there. Rada was there. After the groundbreaking, we went over to the Friendship Center and had a lunch. And then Keller Construction was on in the premise doing a job fair. And sadly, it wasn't attended very well. So I did take a few of their pamphlets and run around to a few of the contractors that I know that might be interested and pass them off. August 1st, I got to hang out with our Herald family at their reunion all weekend in the Curling Lounge, cooking breakfast and lunch for them. August 6th, the Fort Nelson Heritage Society had their annual meeting, monthly meeting. August 8th, myself and a handful of other girls ran a 258 participant bingo for the Fort Nelson First Nation annual celebration. It was a lot of fun, very busy. Everybody there had a great time. And then today at lunch, we had another sustainable service level meeting. And that's it. Here we are today.
Thank you. Anybody else before I start mine? Oh, go ahead, Counselor Souls.
I'm not very good at keeping notes, so I don't remember what day it was. But I took two of our staff members on a farm tour. One of them is here. And I just wanted to make sure that I would like to give council members and staff members the opportunity to, whenever we can, have a farm tour. And I think it's worth, especially given the potential of having an agriculture committee forward looking and having some background for it. I can give up quite a bit of that. And so a tour is offered and was done with a couple. So
Okay. I guess I'll do mine then.
Sometimes people can have holidays.
Okay, since the 13th, I guess was July 13th was the last time we had a meeting. I participated in the Northern Rockies Roundtable meeting and much of the same topics, although further progressed along were had there, and there's a set of minutes if anybody would like to read those. I think those meetings are good. We get some good feedback from folks up and down the highway about a lot of the issues that were on in the evening. Or was it? I did a webinar. No, I can't remember. I've got it written down here that I did at noon on the 15th. Yeah, that's right. I did the daytime one, not the nighttime one. Yeah, that's right. So at noon I did the Casca Land Use webinar. Again, lots of good information there. I asked a few questions. I was lucky in that we had the Northern Roundtable meeting that earlier that day, so it was fresh in my mind of what a lot of people had to say. So I was able to ask them some good questions there. On the 16th, the chamber had their AGM, so I spoke to them. Mainly, I spoke to them about our economic diversification plan and some of the things that were going on. A little bit about what I hope to accomplish at the Pinware Conference when I was going there. That same afternoon, we did the Community Fire Smart committee meeting, and there's minutes available for that. That evening, I met with John Jaku to talk a little bit about him coming up here to work with the Fort Nelson First Nation at their celebration, and he was here for the weekend over that. Then on the 17th, the next day, it was Friday, I headed for the gathering of the drummers at the Sikanee Ranch, and that was really good. I spent Friday afternoon, most of Saturday there. They had 100 drummers, which is big considering they started. Yeah, that echoed. Yeah, considering that they started with like a dozen or something, and in 3 years they're at 100 drummers. Helped and hurt, I suppose, that Fort Simpson had their fire going on because there was some folks there from Fort Simpson. That day they'd received the news that they could go home, and I met, I don't know, 4 or 5 trailers heading out of there because they were heading home. So they didn't stay for the weekend, but you can't blame them. They had the opportunity to get back to the community, and so they did. Then that afternoon, I headed for Edmonton for the Pacific Northwest Economic Region Conference. I mainly was interested in making connections around rail, and there was some other things that were happening there around energy as well, but I was mainly focused on getting to meet some people around rail and listen to the comments that they had there. It was a very interesting day. The first day I sat the entire day with the Lieutenant Governor of Washington State. Yeah, he sat next to me, and we talked a lot about the region and the north and trapping, and he was extremely excited to talk to a guy who knew something about trapping. So yeah, it was and he's the number 2 guy. He takes over if the governor is not there. So that was very good. But I met many people that have to do with rail, particularly the contact with Jerry DeSalen and Paul Dedalius, who are with Columbia Rail. Right, and they have 350 miles in Washington, Idaho, and Oregon of rail that they have. They're a small service rail company. I asked him if he was in conversations with CN, and he said he was, but he has a non-disclosure agreement with them. But that was good enough because it told me he's talking to them. Right, and one of the things that he would be talking to them about this particular line, it's probably about the expectations for fixing it up, the expectations of service. If he did something like that, could they have what does the interchange look like for the main rail? So you can deduce just by the fact that he's talking to them that that there are there's some good discussions going on there. So I also met with Rachel McKenzie, who is the Director of Communications Government Relations with the Short Line Railway, Western Canadian Short Line Railway. So, I think she's a good contact from the perspective of doing some diligence on anybody who does approach us with ideas and how we might move that forward. And when I say I sat with, it was actually myself, counselor from Dawson Creek, and a counselor from Fort St. John as well. Their names are just going out of my mind. But we also sat with and met with representatives from the Yukon who are interested in rail. So Adam Girl, who's an MLA for Porter Creek, David Jackson, who is a senior staff member with the Yukon government, and Noel Edsey. She's a PhD policy planning and economic development with the Yukon government. They also are very interested in rail and, would like to be kept informed with anything that happens to be going on with rail. There was a presentation made by a senator from Alaska to the entire audience at the start. And it's about a 6-minute video, and I'd like to get it and show it to you all at one of our meetings, where he talks about Alaska really wanting to become connected with the lower 48 states. And they are very, very interested in getting that done. And so a big portion of that address he made to the entire conference from Alaska was about rail and how important it is to them. And, that they're quite far along with convincing the lower 48, the federal government, to move on it. So there's a big interest. And I think, the three of us who were there really thought that if we don't get this idea of upgrading this rail, which then means that the rail is all ready to here, they will go around us. So the rail presentation that was there talked about 2 routes. A route from Edmonton up through Grand Prairie along the highway. So not going right now. The Grand Prairie line comes up through Grand Cache, right? So there's a line that goes north of Whitecourt, Fox Creek, and then it stops. So they're talking about completing that to Grand Prairie. Then from there it can split. They can go 2 different ways. They can come up to Dawson Creek, then to Fort St. John, then to here, stay on the high side of the river, so they wouldn't come right into Fort Nelson, but it's just on the other side. Then they would go up the flat, across Estio Plateau, and then across the Petitah. Because the best place to cross the Liard River in its entire length is at Fort Liard. That's the best place for it it's the flattest. And then from there, it can split and go 2 ways. It can go up the valley, or it can go up towards the Mackenzie, right? Up into the Yukon, and then catch those mines that are up north there. Or it can go from Grand Prairie all the way to High Level, which exists already. Then from High Level, it would go around Beastu Lake, which is the headwaters of Petitah. And it would stay on the north side of the Petitah, so it would go around the corner of BC and go straight across to Fort Liard, and then split, and it could go either way from there. Yes, you probably have seen those before. So that was the Alaska to Alberta company who originally put those together, and A to A, yeah, Alaska to Alberta. So that's sort of revived. That company is not revived, but the fellow who did the presentation was the engineer responsible for routing for that company. And there was some shenanigans that went on with the president, and that company went bankrupt. But those plans are still there. Those routes are, they haven't done on the ground survey work, but they've certainly looked over all of the maps and the advantage we have in BC is access to all, because you can access from here, Fort Nelson for construction. You can access where the Highway 77 would cross it, and you can access it further up the highway at Liard Hot Springs. Where the Alberta route, there's quite a bit less access, but they don't have to deal with the BC government.
I know, but
So that's the advantage that the Alberta route has. They don't have to deal with the BC government.
That is-
and they're quite vocal about that. They're not afraid to say
Yeah.
it at all.
But that's where we too need to be vocal about that particular, because we're actually sitting on by far the closest, even from a construction point of view and a high ground point of view. We have the extension of this line through to the Yukon on just not on the hot spring side of the mountains, but
Right.
on the flatlands out to the east of it. That is just a no-brainer if you want to, if it weren't for the policy stuff in the way, it'd be a no-brainer to just continue this line on.
So obviously there's tons and tons of work, but before this ever happens, they've got to talk to First Nations. They've got to, and I think the larger plan is that the Canadian portion be owned mostly by, and this is main line track, mostly by the First Nations all along its route. So that was good. I also had a meeting with, because he sat at my table, with Gavin Dew, who's the MLA for Kelowna Mission, and he is a conservative MLA in the BC legislature, and he is the critic for economic development. If they get elected, he will likely become the minister of jobs and, Jedi, likely. And he was big on seeing that the Northeast gets its due. So that was a good contact to make. And then finally, Colbert Law was a fellow professional engineer, business development manager with Data Center Power Solutions. Data Center Power Solutions. So another very good contact with respect to building data centers particularly around generating the electricity that they need. He doesn't build data centers, but he's involved with building the electrical components and or generators they might need to house or to power them. Yeah, so that was good. So there was it was worthwhile going there because I was able to Dawson Creek, Fort St. John are chomping at the bit to pull a group together to start looking at some kind of a lobbying effort. So we'll see where that goes. They would like to get together so that we have a common message at UBCM between all the communities that are interested. So hopefully we'll get together before that. Yeah. You guys are freezing. So that was the Pacific Northwest
On the other side.
Economic Region Conference. Then I came home, the 29th, I did the NDIT board meeting, was the annual general meeting. NDIT is still got, good reserves, good cash flow, good return on their investment, on our investments. They elected the same board. Yeah, that's probably as much as I need to say about them. Apparently, I am on the Musqueam-Kachika Advisory Board now, so although I have not received a letter, that they did ask me to participate in this review of the Cascadeni land use plan. And I have, their notes are really similar to ours, and so they're, they're a little more interested, of course, in the relationship between the Musqueam-Kachika and the Casco when it comes to the management of this zone. So I'm still awaiting. It's the premier who's supposed to appoint us. So even though so him and I are not on speaking terms, so I may not make it yet, but at least they had me go to their meeting. So that was positive. Then let's see, then all the way to the 7th and 8th, I spent some time out at FNFN at their annual celebration, always at Moose Camp, always at the opening ceremonies, always at the initial dance. And then I took in the bingo, which was awesome. Even though I never won a nickel, it was good. And back out there for supper. So always making relationships, building relationships, and tried to introduce John Jaku from Provectus around a little bit. So he'd get to meet some people and talk to them. So that's what my last month has looked like. It's been pretty busy with some time off as well. So, okay. So that takes us to, are there any notice of motion for the next meeting? No. Is there any public that wish to speak or ask questions about tonight's agenda? No. Okay. Anybody in the room? No. So then we need to go to a closed meeting pursuant to section 91E of the community charter, the acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land improvements. Have a mover, please. Moved by Counselor Enoch, second by Counselor Souls. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you for the water. That'd be using it. Okay, thank you very much. We are back to the regular council meeting from the in-camera meeting. We do not have a report to rise with. So adjournment is in order for the regular council meeting. Moved by Counselor Enoch, second by Counselor Souls. All in favor? Opposed? Carried. Thank you very much, everybody.